Okay, if you're an EDM producer and you're still kind of struggling with compression, you're not sure when to use it or how to use it, then this video is for you. I'm going to show you how you can use compression on vocals. And actually, if you look in the description below, I'm going to have this instrumental that you're going to hear in a second, plus this vocal stem. I'm going to give you the free stem files. That way you can watch this video, you can get those stem files, you can throw them into your DAW and practice right away. That way you're actually learning what I'm teaching you. So make sure you look in the description and go download them. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna play the vocal. I'm just gonna make sure it's balanced well with the instrumental. And then I'm gonna add a little EQ, some reverb, and then we'll get straight into the compression. So let's go ahead and do that now. So let's go ahead and take a listen. Okay, so that's good enough for now. I like to have use sends and returns a lot, and I've got a Valhalla room here with a little bit of EQ'd out the lows and the highs, and then this imager here just to make the reverb kind of wide, and I use a 4-second decay time. And so first of all, I'm just going to send this vocal to the reverb. Nothing crazy, just to kind of make it a little bit reverberated, kind of sound kind of nice. And then I'm going to do some simple EQ. I will show you how quickly we can make a vocal sound nice and bright and shiny. So first I will do a high pass filter. I like to take it like this and then just bring it back down till it sounds normal. And then I could just boost like this, but I'd rather be a little bit more accurate for what I'm doing. So that looks like quite a bit, but it's nice to have like nice, airy, bright vocals, especially in EDM. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the before and after. Okay, perfect. So now we're going to get into compression, and I'm just going to use a basic Ableton compressor. And first, what I want you to listen for, because what we're doing here is we are compressing for dynamic range. There's two purposes of compression: compression to control dynamics, and using compression to shape the tone of a signal, which I will talk about in just a second. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to be talking about compression just to control the dynamic range of the vocal. And now what do I mean by this? Well, a vocal, when someone sings in the microphone, they're naturally going to have a very dynamic sound. And we're talking about humans here, not a synthesizer. So a human being is going to be very dynamic. And so if you're working with raw vocals, let's say you recorded a vocalist, or you recorded yourself, or you purchased a vocal and it's raw, be careful. If you get a vocal off of Splice or somewhere like that, it's likely that it's going to it's been mixed and compressed already. But if it's a raw vocal, it will have a dynamic range. And the problem with this is what happens, and I'm going to show you this in a second, is that when the vocal gets too loud, the loud parts will be in your face. And then the vocal will get quiet in the quiet parts, and it'll feel like it's kind of too far away, and you won't necessarily hear it as well. So what happens is if you turn it up during the quiet parts, well, then the loud parts will be too loud. If you turn it down during the loud parts, the quiet parts will be too quiet. And so what a compressor does is it literally compresses it, evens out that dynamic range. That way we can take that vocal, put it nice and upfront in the mix, and it'll just sit there, because the vocal is the most important part of any mix that has a vocal in it, of any track that has a vocal in it. It'll sit there right in the front. It'll just sound nice. So now what I will do is I've got this compressor here. The first thing we're going to do with the stock Ableton compressor, we're going to turn it on to peak mode. RMS is something like it measures the average value over time or something like that. We're not going to do that. Peak just turns it into like a regular compressor where if a signal goes over this threshold, it's going to be turned down. And then one thing I want to warn you about as well is you don't really ever want to use auto makeup gain like this, because when you do that, watch what happens when I pull this threshold down. You hear how it gets louder? The problem with that, especially if you're a noob, is that if you pull it down, it gets louder. We automatically think that louder is better. So you hear louder and you think, oh, that sounds great, when really you don't know if it sounds great or not because it's just louder. So we want to be in control of the makeup gain that we add, which we're going to use right here. So peak mode, boom. So let me just explain a compressor really quick. So this is the threshold. So anything that goes over the threshold is going to be turned down. The amount it gets turned down is determined by the ratio. And so a 4:1 ratio simply means that every 4 dB that goes above the threshold, only 1 dB is getting let through. And so a 10:1 would be more compression, like less would be getting through. And, a 2:1 would be like not that much compression is happening at all. Quite a bit gets through. And so a 4:1 is like a good medium compression. And then the way that you can think about this actually is that high ratios work well with high thresholds and low ratios work well with lower thresholds. And what I mean by that is, let's say you just wanted to catch the peaks of this vocal, which there is a technique that I do a lot where we do 2 compressors. Well, you could do a 10:1 ratio and then go do something like this. And it works really well rather than what we're about to do, which is 4:1 and then kind of lower that quite a bit. And then let's talk about attack and release time. So attack time is how quickly the compressor starts to work once the vocal goes past the threshold, how quickly it kicks in. And so 1 millisecond is like a fast attack. 10 millisecond would be like a medium. A slow attack would be 30 milliseconds or slower. And the way you can think about this is a fast attack when we talk about compressing and attack times for shaping the tone. A fast attack is going to work so quickly that it'll hit that threshold and it'll shave down. It'll kind of like, it'll take the transient away from something. So if you did this to a snare drum, it's going to shape down that punch. Whereas if you had like a slow attack and you lower the threshold and it goes through, it's going to really snappy. When it comes to vocals, there isn't a lot of transient information, so we don't really have to worry about it. And so what we can do is just do a pretty fast attack time so that we can control the vocal. So we'll just keep it at 1 millisecond. And release time is how quickly the compressor resets after the vocal stops. The way you can think about this is a quick release time can kind of emphasize the sustain, and a slower release time take away the sustain. And if you want to look down in my description below and join my school community, I have a big course called Mix Immersions where I go way more in depth on this. So I would definitely check that out. There's a 7-day free trial. But anyway, just to really quickly, that's what these do. The only other parameter that we really have to worry about is the knee. And so a hard knee would be more of this, and a soft knee would make it more like this. Basically, the knee is just kind of how transparent the compressor is going to be. So a hard knee is going to be more obvious compression. That's the best way that I can explain it. We'll just keep it on about 3 dB, and that's going to work just fine for the purposes of this video. Now I'm going to turn this off, take a listen to this vocal, and what I want you to listen for is that the vocal is going to sound like too loud and then too soft, and it's kind of like coming in and out at you. And we're just going to worry about this section right here. You can hear dark sounds like it's really far away. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to lower the threshold. And in fact, let's actually take the little looper here. Our goal is to lower the threshold until we get enough compression, and then with the makeup gain, add it so that it matches the same volume that we had without any compression at all. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so that's pretty close. I'm doing a fair amount of compression. Let's just make this an even 7. And now I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to play it without it, and I'm going to play it with the compression. Go ahead and take a listen. When it gets right here, dark, how the compressed version, it's going to be a lot more upfront, but it's not going to be like in your face. The whole vocal is not going to be louder. It's just going to be more evened out. Go ahead and take a listen to that. Okay, you can hear that, but now you can actually start to hear the compression. You can hear that the vocal is being compressed. And there's things that we can do to kind of avoid that over compressed sound. The first is to actually slow down the attack time. You can see if I make it really fast, so you want to find that balance where you're still getting the compression, you're still controlling the dynamics, but the attack's not so fast that you hear the compression and it makes it sound kind of worse. Some compressors, we actually like how it makes it sound, but in this case, the Ableton compression, we don't really like that. So other thing that we can do is quick little stacking technique. Like I talked about earlier, we can go like this, bring up to make it a really fast attack. Well, let's just do like a 1 millisecond. Take this to a 10 millisecond, leave it on 4 to 1. And now check this out. We're going to bring this stack down here. So we're just going to catch the peaks, and then we're going to do a little bit of makeup gain. And then we're going to go into this compressor. We'll group these together. Let's go ahead and take a listen. So this is no compression. Okay, much better. You can still kind of hear the compression, but I actually kind of like it. And the compressed version is a lot better than the uncompressed version because the uncompressed version is just not really going to work. The words are going to get lost. The loud parts will be too loud, and so on and so forth. And so what I want you to take away from this video is don't overthink compression. You know, if you need something that you need to control the dynamic range, then just put the compressor on there and just play with the parameters until you get the sound that you want. But have at least a general understanding of what each parameter does, which what I talked about here. And that's pretty much it. And so go, like I said before, go in the description, download this, and I got a free download. It also comes with my free mix training and everything like that. And also there's a link to my school community as well, where I have my mix immersions course as well as my compression masterclass, which I go really deep into this. So that's pretty much it. I hope that helps, and I will see you guys again next time.